how does this show keep getting better? And we haven't even seen Jessica Jones yet. I mean, there should be more vigilantes, but so far, I have no complaints. And the one problem I did have, I've come around on. So join me today as I recap and review Season 2, Episode 4 of Daredevil, Born Again. Welcome back to Sandwich Reviews. I'm that sandwich guy, your nihilistic optimist, and I just want to hop right in, because there is so much I want to talk about, beginning with Bullseye going about his perfect morning routine, living his best life and giving an egg to his neighbor, Miss Smithers' cat, who calls him Tony the nice boy, though he does have his knives in view, so I guess she's oblivious or doesn't care. But Bullseye walks into the Bel Air diner, ordering a delicious looking milkshake and calling the cops on himself. And I've seen the newest trailer, I know what's about to go down, but I'm also thinking about what Bullseye wants, dawning on me that he might actually believe he's the good guy, because he is doing what Frank Castle would do. I thought he was gonna kill the dog, because comic Bullseye would, without hesitation, but Poindexter's only killing task force guys. And then, to make it obvious for people like me, who just couldn't imagine Bullseye wanting to do the right thing, he even says, "Don't worry, I'm one of the good guys." But also in this action scene, we get some brutal deaths. Stuff I definitely cannot show on YouTube, so all I'll say is that knife in the dude's throat, my god, makes me forget I'm watching a Disney Plus show, and I mean that as a compliment. In fact, the whole presentation of this show screams prestige drama, and I love it. It's like they heard the complaints about the color grading and cinematography for Season 1 and proceeded to roll up their sleeves and get to work. Anyway, we then learn about Fisk's Red Hook revitalization project from the City Without Fear's latest newsreel, which in comparison to the BB reports that I hated from last season are so refreshing, because I've come to really like these. Not just because the season is moving pretty fast and I could genuinely use those catch-ups, but because it's exposition wrapped in character drama. But next we get Fisk's political prisoners labeled vigilantes making video testimonies. And before Swordsman goes home to shower, he tells Daredevil he's now more than a hero, but a symbol. And Angela, now adopting the heroic White Tiger mantle, helps Karen get some evidence out and approaches Daredevil to get his approval, who's about to give it, making me think Matt might actually be willing to ask for help for once. But they're interrupted by the first mate of the Northern Star, Christophe Sava, who's found them in hopes of returning the kindness that was given to him, just collecting more and more evidence against Fisk. Meaning a courtroom finale could be the way this is going. But with him, we see Fisk sending Vanessa to Albany to deal with the governor, as well as getting her out of town during his boxing match. Because, as it turns out, the match is a trap for Daredevil and Bullseye, a trap that inevitably works. But we're not there yet. But Karen and Matt say I love you to each other, and that should fill me with a warm and fuzzy feeling, but all I feel is dread. And I'm not saying death flags, but I am so scared. Regardless, we then see McDuffie's office raided by the task force, who don't even need probable cause, a warrant, or to even knock, which just feels so illegal and wrong. But hey, isn't that just twisted how life works out that way? But this show does do a good job of depicting how unjust and rage-inducing it is, so there's that. But with this fictional head of office, who we know is fictional because he's competent, he is tired of leaks and disappointments. Worst of all, having to deal with another commanding presence in the room, because Mr. Charles is back and he's talking about wombat poop. But he's also mad at Fisk for not being able to maintain complete control. But Fisk fires right on back as the Kingpin. Or I guess I should say Buck fires back. Then we get Karen trying to get McDuffie's aid, who's worried for Matt, but has to start connecting those dots soon. And Vanessa trying to get the governor's aid, who has an insignia in her office labeled Excelsior. And they both succeed, with Vanessa having done legitimate good for the city, showing she can bring out the best in Wilson Fisk. And after that, Angela puts the same thief who got her into this mess to good use, and Matt goes into Bullseye's latest crime scene disguised as a task force dickhead, making it pretty easy to get the room to himself. And here he uses his fingers and nose to really inspect the place, which is basic, but I just love it when Daredevil is seen using more than just his good hearing. But he picks up a familiar smell, leading to Matt finally going back to a church. And not just a church, the church. I have no idea if it's the same set, it's probably not, but I certainly didn't pick up on that when we saw it before. Plus, we see some flashbacks to Matt as a kid, and this doesn't matter, but it's the Netflix kid, not the new one we saw in last season's flashbacks. But Matt convinces the young, not yet priest to give him information on Bullseye, who, side note, I just assumed was killed, but he tells Matt that Bullseye lives within spitting distance of the church, who's able to pinpoint exactly where Bullseye is from where he's standing, so he goes up to fight him. And let me tell ya, I have been waiting for this rematch.
You know how long I've been waiting for this?
Going in, I figured we were gonna get it with some music over top, but instantly, Bullseye drops his CD and throws it at Daredevil, who catches it and throws it right back. And my goodness, this 45-second sequence, which is giving it lenience, is so much fun, bringing me back to their fight in season 3 in the best way and hyping me up for more to come. But can I also say, I'm not sure if I want that or anything else in a one take. I know that's blasphemous for Daredevil, and I was just talking about how much I loved the one take last week, and I will jump with joy if we get any others this season, but unless they're done extraordinarily well, they're just not worth seeing. Hot take on a one take, I guess. In any case, back to the show, because Daredevil goes into this fight full swing. But even as Bullseye is trying to de-escalate, something I never thought I'd say, they're evenly matched. Yet Bullseye truly doesn't want to fight him, but Matt doesn't accept that, beating the crap out of him. And concerned for sweet Tony, Miss Smithers walks in, who's taken by Bullseye and held at gunpoint so that him and Matt can talk, where Bullseye reveals to him that he's trying to tip the scales toward balance with one good deed after another. Again, diving into the meaty gray area of, if you consider the Punisher a hero, then that means Bullseye's being a hero this season. And just to be clear, I don't consider either remotely altruistic, but it's an interesting discussion to dive into. But Bullseye gets away, escaping on a motorbike, though Daredevil could have easily just swung around like Spider-Man and caught up to him. And I'm not just saying that because comic Daredevil would have done that. We've seen this guy swing around, but I guess it's expensive and doesn't look good with a TV budget, even a Disney one. But before getting to the culmination of this episode, Christophe spills on camera that the Northern Star was smuggled into New York and ordered by Fisk to be sunk, or scuttled if anyone boarded, hopefully leading to that being public information. But then we see some weird flirtation between Daniel Blake and BB, and Blake 1000% saw the evidence being given to her, but he's not about to get her killed, so isn't doing anything, inadvertently and cowardly doing the right thing. And right before the fight, Buck gets a call and must leave, making me think we might see some personal matters with the Cash Man, but Fisk tells him they don't want any more loose ends, putting into my head the depressing reality that Christophe's not gonna be here for much longer. But finally getting to the main event, my first thought is how weak the announcer's voice was. No offense to that actor, I've just heard better in person. But my second thought is, man, Mike Matterhorn Melendez is one ballsy dude, going up against the 325-pound wall of muscle and fat that is Wilson Fisk, who's not the one-ton square we see in the comics, but one punch from this Wilson Fisk would probably cave my skull in, and I believe that wholeheartedly. And as the match goes on, so does Mike. But also looking around at the crowd, it does look like a small turnout for such an event. But I suppose it's meant to be a trap, so Fisk didn't want it to be that big. Regardless, after getting distracted for a moment by Vanessa's entrance, Fisk takes one hit, triggering him to put down Mike, crippling, maybe even killing him. And Vanessa watches on, realizing she'll never get rid of her husband's demons. But during their concerned celebration, Bullseye steps in to kill everyone, yet only has one true target in mind. And he's shot by Vanessa, about to be killed by Fisk, but is rescued by Daredevil, filling me with an unending mix of excitement and confusion as to what that's gonna mean in the future. But before I can even process that, we then see that Bullseye did succeed in his ultimate one good deed. And I had to rewind because I figured Fisk stopped it, but one shard does manage to pass through. And in the shot of Fisk pulling his gun on Bullseye, sure enough, you can see it sticking out of her head. And maybe she pulls through. I don't want to assume anything after my many incorrect assumptions in the last video, including when I said Matt used the stashed watch to find the prisoners, even though it's incredibly obvious he had to choose between the evidence and the people. But I digress, because Vanessa's probably dead, and Fisk's wrath is incoming, leaving me anxious but ready for next week's episode. But before I wrap up, I have a couple topics to bring up. Firstly, an apology to Heather, and she wasn't in episode 4 at all, but she's just been on my mind, because a major line that I straight up overlooked from last week is how she thinks the Punisher or Daredevil might have killed Matt, and she genuinely believes that, giving some logic, at least from her point of view, as to why she would turn to Fisk, who she also believes is helping the city. I'm not entirely sure how she's able to look past the caged people, the aggressive and unreasonable task force, or the fact that Fisk is publicly or rumored to have crushed a man's head with a car door. But I've been giving Heather lots of hate these past few weeks, and as much as I still stand by her being an annoying character, perhaps that was the point all along, because there's clearly some thought put into her this season, all the while feeding into the whole idea of how Punisher and Bullseye might be doing some good in the cosmic scales of balance or whatever saying helps them sleep at night, but they're not heroes. Because committing violence doesn't make you a savior, it's saving people that matters. And I'm glad Daredevil holds true to that, though he does like to beat the crap out of people. But secondly, I want to quickly bring up my thoughts on where the rest of this season is going, starting out with, hopefully in the direction of Jessica Jones, who we have to get soon. Right? I mean, I suppose minor future spoilers, though I'm sure you can already guess, but when we see Jones and Daredevil interact in the trailer, he's got a lot more of the black on his costume smudged off. So there's a chance we'll have to wait an episode or two, but by at least 6, we're gonna see her. Because another hope of mine is that we're gonna get more vigilantes than just Angela's White Tiger, Jack Duquesne's Swordsman, and Jessica Jones. And I'm not just talking about the rest of the Defenders or Spider-Man, though I am starting to question where the hell they are, but there are just so many characters that can be utilized to flesh out this New York. In fact, a thought I had recently, or maybe I saw it on Twitter and that incepted the idea into my brain, is that Marvel has a Cloak and Dagger ready to go. I haven't seen the show and I can't tell you if it's good or not, but they look the part and I've heard some good things about their performances, so let's use them. Nevertheless, with or without the many street level characters Marvel should be utilizing, I'm still really loving this season. And now, just about halfway through, with an episode focusing on Bullseye no less, I cannot wait to see where the hell we go from here. But what are your thoughts on this week's episode of Born Again? Did you enjoy it as much as I did? Drop a comment and let me know. And as always, thanks for watching. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe for weekly video essays and reviews, and enjoy a delicious sandwich.